Good evening and thank you for joining us today on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Here are the top stories. Senate suspends Senator Natasha for 6 months. Natasha rejects Senate suspension. Senate Deputy Chief Whip alleges Natasha threatened to disgrace Akpabio if local government committee chairmanship was not given. File suit, 6 fair trial. Nnamdi Kanu file suit, 6 fair trial, release or case transfer to Southeast. And NAFDAC reopens Onisha market, confiscates over 50 trailers of fake drugs. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The Nigerian Senate has suspended the Kogi Central Senator Natasha Uduaghan Akpoti over allegations of misconduct effective today, March 6, 2025. This follows a recommendation of the Senate Committee on Public Conduct, Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. The panel had recommended a 6-month suspension for the senator. The committee also proposed that during the suspension period, her office will be locked and she'll be barred from accessing the National Assembly premises during the suspension period, while her salaries and those of her legislative aides will be withdrawn. In February, Natasha Akpoti had a disagreement with Senate President Godswill Akpabio over seating arrangements in the chamber. The situation escalated a few days later when she accused Akpabio of sexual harassment. However, let's take a listen today to the Senate President handing the gavel on her suspension.
Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written the suspension or reducing the tenor of suspension. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan shall submit a written apology to the Senate before any reconsideration of this case by the Senate. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3.
Liberalism.
Prayer 3. That the Senate do suspend Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan with effect from 6th day of March 2025 from all legislative activities forward. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. That her office be locked up for the duration of this suspension, and she should hand over all Senate properties in her possession to the clerk of the National Assembly. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5. That for the duration of her suspension, she cannot come or be seen within the vicinity of the National Assembly, including her staff. But this is normal. Those in support of prayer 5 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Again, the ayes have it. Prayer 6. That our salaries and allowances, including those of our legislative aides, be suspended and withdrawal of all security details for the duration of our suspension. Yes, Senator Ojo Sakalo.
Amendment. Her aides have families. Most of them have come from villages, from towns to live in Abuja. It will be wrong to punish aides that have not committed any offense. Their aides will receive their allowances. No, but Danduse, you have to agree with this. The aides of Natasha is not Natasha. It will be wrong for this Senate to deprive those aides not collecting their allowances. They are workers. They don't have any other farm to go to, Mr. President. Because these aides are workers of Senator Natasha. So I'm moving for amendment of that section that the aides will receive their allowances. Mr. President, I plead with you that these people might be having family in Abuja. They don't go to any farm. They don't have any other way of feeding. And I think that this Senate, my colleagues, you must allow the workers of Natasha to have their allowances. I so move, Mr. President.
My name is Senator Ned Nwoko. I represent the good people of
You just listened to all the prayers given and all assented to the suspension, withdrawal of salaries, premises, her offices locked up for the next 6 months. Meanwhile, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, representing Kogi Central in the National Assembly, has rejected her 6-month suspension by the Senate. She described the decision as unfair and vowed that it would not stand. According to her, she says, this injustice will not be sustained. She declared before being cut off and led out of the Senate chamber. Senator Natasha's suspension follows her public accusation against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. She had alleged that Akpabio was punishing her for rejecting his alleged sexual advances. This followed an earlier disagreement with the Senate leadership over the change of sitting arrangement. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions reviewed the matter and recommended her suspension. The Senate today upheld the committee's decision. According to the committee's ruling, Senator Natasha will not receive her salary during the suspension period. Additionally, her official security details will be withdrawn. Now, in a very recent development, the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate, Peter Nwaboyi, has declared that the Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan threatened to disgrace Senate President Godswill Akpabio over her deployment to another committee. Nwaboyi said Akpoti-Uduaghan made the threat one day before she arrived, or rather appeared on Arise television, and accused Akpabio of sexual harassment. The Senate Deputy Chief Whip made the revelation today during an appearance on a Monitor television program. According to him, Akpoti-Uduaghan had vowed to carry out her threat if Akpabio did not reassign her to the Senate Committee on Local Content, where she was moved to the Diaspora Committee. According to Nwaboyi, the Kogi Central lawmaker was dissatisfied with her redeployment to another committee, and her allegations against Akpabio are part of a grand plan to force a return to the Local Content Committee. Nwaboyi alleged that Akpoti-Uduaghan's sexual harassment claim followed her failed attempt to regain the chairmanship of a committee lost in a recent reshuffle. He said Akpoti-Uduaghan had made her plan known to Senator Sani Musa of Niger State a day before she appeared on television. He alleged that Natasha threatened Akpabio during a phone call with Senator Musa and disclosed her plans to disgrace the Senate President. He said, and I quote, "Let me tell you, a day before she appeared on Arise television claiming the sexual harassment, she called a senator, Senator Sani Musa of Niger State. She asked him to tell the Senate President to return her as chairman of the Senate Committee on Local Content. She threatened that if this was not done, she would disgrace the Senate President. Senator Sani Musa then called the Senate President and said, 'Look at the threat from this lady,' Nwaboyi disclosed today. The Deputy Senate Chief Whip disclosed that Akpabio wasn't moved by the threat, saying that the reshuffling of committee members is a normal parliamentary process and he has to do his job. Nwaboyi maintained categorically that Akpoti-Uduaghan's allegations of sexual harassment are purely because of her desire to return to her previous committee, not because she was harassed as claimed. Now, in a very recent development, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has filed fresh suit seeking to enforce his right to fair trial. Kanu also sought that he be released or his case transferred to Southeast if he could not get fair trial in the Federal Capital Territory. The IPOB Leaders Council, Aloy Ejimakor, in a statement today, disclosed that 2 separate suits were filed on Tuesday on behalf of Kanu. Ejimakor also said that the 2 separate legal actions sought to compel the authorities to, henceforth, abide by the black letters of the Constitution and pertinent statutes in the overall conduct of Kanu's case. Kanu's lawyer explained the suits were necessitated by refusal to reassign the IPOB leader's case to another judge since Justice Binta Nyako recused herself on the 24th of September 2024. Ejimakor argued that keeping Kanu in detention for 4 years was against his inalienable right. rights. To be clear, these actions by the authorities constitute grave miscarriage of justice that have altogether become highly injurious to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's legal interests, including particularly the grave injustice of keeping him in detention for almost 4 years without any prospect of a fair trial. As a human being imbued with certain inalienable rights, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu cannot fold his hands whilst these injustices persist. End quote. The Supreme Court has ruled that Rivers State Governor Simlai Fubara had already undermined the State House of Assembly before Speaker Martin Mawuli and 26 other lawmakers defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. The Apex Court, in a judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Akomaye Agim, held that the concurrent findings of both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal prove that Governor Fubara engaged in illegal and unconstitutional activities to subvert the State Assembly, violate the Nigerian Constitution, and prevent an anticipated impeachment by opposition lawmakers. The ruling was part of the Supreme Court's judgment on cross-appeal filed by Governor Fubara to challenge the earlier rulings of the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal. The cross-appeal was linked to the main appeal brought before the Supreme Court by the Rivers State House of Assembly and Speaker Martin Mawuli. The appeal lists the government of Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, Honorable Justice Adolphus Enebeli, retired, Chairman, Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, Central Bank of Nigeria, Zenith Bank PLC, Access Bank PLC, Accountant General of the Federation, the Government of Rivers State, Sir Simlai Fubara, the Accountant General of Rivers State, and Honorable Justice S.C. Amadi, who is the Chief Judge of Rivers State, as the first to 10th respondents. Fubara requested the Supreme Court to determine whether Sections 102 and 109 subsection G of the 1999 Constitution and the Doctrine of Necessity validates the proceedings of the Rivers State House of Assembly, which was constituted by less than one-third of its members, and the actions of the state government based on such proceedings. Now, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has finally announced the reopening of the Onitsha drug market and other adjoining markets after nearly 1 month of closure. The Southeast Zonal Director of the agency, Mr. Martins Uluyomade, revealed this today after a meeting between officials of the agency, the Anambra State Government, and market union leaders. He stated that business will officially resume in the markets on Friday. All the markets, including the plumbing materials market, timber market, surgical materials market, and science laboratory materials market, amongst others, were affected early last month when the agency shut them down in its fight against illicit drugs. Uluyomade, who addressed government officials and market leaders before announcing the reopening, disclosed that what is happening goes beyond only the drug market. It extends to other markets around the area, and steps are being taken in closing down everywhere. Also, the DG of NAFDAC took the assignment like her life depended on it. Every day kept on calling to know the state of operations. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment, where obviously I'll be speaking with Barrister Eze Eluche. He is a political, national, and social affairs commentator. He'll be giving us his insight into some of the topical stories on the World News at 6. To kindly stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Barrister Eze Eluche, good evening and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6.
Yeah, good evening and thank you for the invite.
I sincerely do appreciate you joining us today. Marisa Ezeluche, let's start off with the very obvious, the situation with Natasha Akpoti. The Senate has suspended her for 6 months. Her premises, that is her office premises, will be closed off. And as it stands right now, her aides have been added to those who will not get any salaries. Although Senator Orji Uzor decided to, isolate the workers or the aides and saying that Natasha is the one that is the focal point and not those who work with her. Now the Senate has decided that all through this period, no salary, security stripped of her, her office is locked, and she's to be nowhere around the National Assembly. How do you react to this handed down of the gavel on Senator Natasha Akpoti's case?
Well, it's one extra unfortunate incident in our politics. Because when you look at the entire episode, the moment the petition was handed over to the Committee on Ethics, the chairman of that committee said it was dead on arrival, without even making any inquiries, without asking or looking at any issues. He announced to the general public that it was dead on arrival. So such a character, such a committee have, by that comment alone, made themselves, they are not even proper authorities to look into that matter. And when you look at the entire situation, I mean, somebody accuses the Senate President of sexual harassment. The Senate President was not even called upon to properly respond to that petition. And within a few hours, the Ethics Committee claims to have discharged that petition, went forward in a very vindictive manner to suspend or to recommend the suspension of the distinguished senator from the Senate. With so much, you realize that there's a lot of vindictiveness and a premeditated vindictiveness. And it does not even help anybody. It doesn't help the system. It is that the people of Kogi sector will be deprived of any representation in the Senate for this 6-month period. I mean, it only shows that this our system, this our so-called pretense at democracy, is highly questionable.
All right, Barrister Ezeluche, it's quite a lot, to be honest with you. I'm a woman myself, and what had transpired today in the National Assembly speaks a lot for generations to come, specifically for the fact that a pattern has been set. Now, this is a political elite. This is someone whom you say has the financial means, has a connection, but she is being subjected to something like this. Most of the senators in the House agreed for her to be suspended, meaning that it was a crime for what she said. However, the Deputy Senate Chief Whip, Moaboy, is alleging that the reason why Senator Natasha Akpoti came out is that she threatened to disgrace the Senate president. According to him, he's saying that Senator Musa was spoken to a day before Natasha appeared on Arise television. She threatened that she was going to disgrace Senator Godswill Akpabio. Now, what is the problem? She was dissatisfied with her redeployment to another committee. That is it. Because, for example, her threat is that if Akpabio does not reassign her to the Senate Committee on Local Content, where she was moved to the Diaspora Committee, that she was going to disgrace him. The question now is, why is Senator Sani Musa coming out to say this now? While Senator Natasha made her allegations on national television, Senator Sani Musa did not come out to make these clarifications. Nobody came out to tell us that this was the threat and this is why this happened. All we were told was that she was angry, that she was stripped off from being a chairperson of the local content committee. Later we heard that she has 6 children from different, men. That was another derogatory allegation. The next thing we heard was because no petition has been written to the House, and so Senate President Godswill Akpabio cannot be investigated. And this is coming up now. How do we know that this is the truth?
Well, the fact is this. All these hereafter allegations are immaterial. If they like, they can accuse her of having 1 million children everywhere. The fact is, in her petition, she alleged 3 basic facts. I'll mention 2 of them here. The first was the issue that she was sexually harassed by Mr. Akpabio. And the second was that Mr. Akpabio was making it impossible for her to fulfill her legislative duties. I mean, when she tried to move motions regarding a Jokuta steel mill. Now, what should have been the issue? What should have been addressed? Where was there any effort to make it impossible for her to perform her legislative duties? Was she harassed sexually by Mr. Fabio as she has alleged? These are the issues. And so all these other stories, I think they are cracked and they are inconsequential. We should face the realities. And then the unfortunate thing is this: women, like you rightly pointed out in the beginning of this question, says, with her clout, with her wealth, if somebody who is alleged to have harassed such a senator, such a lady, can get away from these allegations without even responding specifically to the issue, it only tells you that the girl child, the young girl in schools, in universities, who is being harassed by their lecturers, the young civil servant, female civil servant, who is being harassed by their directors, will be used and dumped, and nothing will happen. So I call upon all women, the National Council on Women's Societies, all the various women organizations, whether religious, Catholic, or whatever. This is time to rally around, because if they miss this mark, if a distinguished senator can be disgraced or can be thrown out, her petitions, her allegations can be thrown out without proper inquiry, then I really am sorry for the young girl child out there. And that is what should worry Nigerian parents. That is what should worry everybody. The fact that the Senate, almost like a unanimous decision, fell for these stories that there was no petition is irrelevant. Because we know that this is like a cabal. So the issue is, this lady alleged this fact and they have not been properly inquired into. And using the excuse that the Senate rules forbid any senator from signing a petition, that rule is absolute nonsense. Nonsense in the sense that it flies against fundamental principles of justice. Because clearly, when the Senate was making those rules, they never envisaged a senator, him or herself, having a reason to petition. Because if a senator by him or herself has a reason to petition, as in this case, you cannot exclude such a senator from petitioning the Senate. So that's why I say that order which the Senate is relying on to tell us that the single senator's petition is dead on arrival, is itself nonsensical. Because under a fundamental principle of Nigerian justice, Nigerian law, is that both sides must be heard, and you must have an opportunity to present your matter before an appropriate tribunal. So if the Senate is the appropriate tribunal for a senator to present a case, then the father signed it cannot exclude her from being heard by the Senate. So I believe that under proper litigation, when this thing is litigated, the Senate will realize that they have made a fundamental error. And if Mr. Fabio, the Senate president, thinks that by suspending Senator Natasha from the Senate, he would have buried this allegation, I can assure him he's joking.
Barrister Ezra Luche, it's quite unfortunate that the Senate couldn't even try, especially the Code of Ethics Committee, couldn't even try to just look into this petition. If indeed Natasha Akpoti threatened the Senate president just because she wanted a particular to head a particular committee, obviously all those things will come out. This Sani Musa would have been a witness, and extreme punitive measures, if found guilty of falsely alleging or accusing someone of such a gruesome allegation, then obviously she will set the punitive measure. The House did not even consider looking into that at all. Do you think they have constrained and truncated the right of Natasha Akpoti, the right of the female gender, to fair hearing, and resuscitated and reverberated that indeed we are in an overly patriarchal society?
Oh, certainly. Certainly, I agree with that the throwing out this petition was more an assault on the female gender. That is why I said in my last response, it is up to the women to watch what happens, to react, not just to Natasha, not just to Senator Natasha. It is up to the women folk to realize that this is an assault on femininity, this is an assault on the women gender, on the female gender, and decide what next to do. But with regards to the entire process with which the Senate Committee on Ethics threw out this petition, as I said, it will not stand the test of justice, because itself is inherently and patently improper and unjust.
Barrister Azaluche, let's look at the case of Nnamdi Kanu. The case is always ongoing. Apparently, Nnamdi Kanu has filed a fresh suit. I'm sure you recall what transpired the last time when the case was adjourned sine die, right? So he has filed a fresh suit seeking to enforce his right to fair trial. He's saying that if they cannot look into his case fairly, squarely, objectively, then let his case be sent or transferred to the Southeast if they cannot get a fair trial in the Federal Capital Territory. In fact, he stated in two separate suits, which were filed on Tuesday, all right? Now, his lawyer, Aloy Ejimako, said that the two separate legal actions seek to compel the authorities to henceforth abide by the black letters of the Constitution and pertinent statutes in the overall conduct of Kanu's case. In other words, they're saying that the suit is necessitated by the refusal to reassign the IPOP leader's case to another judge since Justice Binta Inyako recused herself on the 24th of September 2024. How do you react to this?
Okay, thank you very much. Previously, I used to wonder if the lawyers to Mr. Kanu had any idea what they were doing because of the kind of applications they were bringing. But after I watched the last appearance of Mr. Kanu in court, where he actually physically assaulted one of his lawyers and was abusing them, using very rough words on them, I realized that these attorneys, these lawyers to Nnamdi Kanu may not be acting as lawyers, only doing what Mr. Kanu asks them to do. It's like when a patient goes to a hospital and tells his doctor, I want you to treat me of tuberculosis or I want you to treat me of malaria, without allowing the doctor himself to use his knowledge. So the reality is this application, this particular new applications that is being filed is absolute nonsense. Because, like I keep on saying, the Federal High Court is one. You cannot tell the judge of the Federal High Court to which case or which of the divisions of the court to move your case to. If he decides that it should be tried in Abuja, that is where it will be tried. If it's tried in Kano or whatsoever, that is where it will be tried. And that is being tried in Umuahia.
Barrister Eze?
I'm sorry. Yes. That
Continue.
the case is being tried in Umuahia or Port Harcourt does not mean that it will have southeastern judges presiding over it. It could still be the same judge from the north or from the southwest. So the application for the case to be moved to the southeast is a non-starter. And I now begin to understand why several of these applications, which are meaningless, which will not even stand the light any scrutiny, any judicial scrutiny, are being repeatedly filed on the name of Nnamdi Kanu, because he is the one motivating this very wrong approach. And I've said severally that Nigerian judicial system has been exhausted with regards to the trial of Nnamdi Kanu. They should look for international avenues. The ECOWAS Court on Human Rights, the African Court on Human and People's Rights. This is where these people should move this matter to. Otherwise, they will be rolling within the Nigerian judicial system for the next 20 years, and there will be absolutely much movement, much motion, but no movement.
Barrister Azaluche, from what I can gather or comprehend from your explanation right now, is that for you before, you thought the lawyers were vacuum, in that is, there was a vacuum in them understanding on how to deal with his case. But that right now, with the last supposed, historic attitude you saw with his appearance at the court, where, he reacted the way he did, you're of the notion that the lawyers have no choice but to possibly go along with what he wants. Why would you pay a lawyer who is an expert to do what you want when the lawyer is meant to implement their expertise to ensure that you are set free? If that is the case, what is the essence of having lawyers based on what you just said?
That is the absolute truth. Because like I said, this motion for the matter to be moved to the southeast is a non-starter. It does not help anybody. What is the motive? What is the expectation? Is that if it is moved to this Federal High Court in Owerri or in Umuahia, then it will be an Igbo man that will preside over it? Who told him that it is Igbos that are presiding over those matters, the Federal High Courts in those areas? So the reality is, it's actually a non-starter, and no lawyer worth his salt will make such an application? For on what basis? That is why I've come to the conclusion that maybe the issue is not that the lawyers do not know what to do, but that simply they are acting based on the unthought the personal knowledge of Mr. Kanu, which is very unfortunate.
The personal knowledge of Mr. Kanu. What personal knowledge? Is Mr. Kanu a lawyer? The fact that he may have a basic understanding of how the legal system works does not mean that infinitely he's ingrained to be a lawyer and represent himself. Are you saying that Nnamdi Kanu intimidates his lawyers, that in instances where he appears in court, rather than allow them do their job, he intimidates them and speaks on their behalf? Are you saying that the reaction the last time was something that was not rehearsed, or that he didn't talk about it before he expressed himself in court?
I'm telling you that no lawyer will be smacked by his client in open court and continue with that matter. No lawyer will be told by his client in open court to shut up when he's talking and continue with that matter. So then this were exactly what transpired during the last time this matter was up. So I mean, that is just the reality. At that stage, those counsels, if they had any guts, if they had any self-respect, should have stepped aside and let the young man handle his matter.
Do you think this is one of the reasons why Barrister Michael Zekome and Ejiofor stepped aside? You know, they were asked to no longer represent him, because these were the lawyers who were leading this case before Aloy Ejimakor came on board.
I cannot project what I do not know, but what I am telling you is that no lawyer wants his soul. No lawyer, no professional will accept such treatment. You are smacked in public and you are told to shut up when your client is talking, and you continue with that matter. That shows you are just more like a rag boy, a house boy, and not the professional.
Would you blame him if Nnamdi Kanu feels his lawyers are not being vehement enough or expressive enough to put his case in proper perspective, and that's why he needed to do that himself? I mean, being isolated for almost 3 or 4 years under a condition where you don't even know when you'll be released, your case is not being heard, your trial just keeps going on, and you feel that there are a lot of interferences from some political bureaucrats, from the presidency. Are you saying that his reaction is not so understandable?
The reaction is not understandable. If you don't have confidence in your lawyers, you don't have to tell them to shut up, or you don't have to beat them up in public. You can change your lawyer, get those who you think know better. But when you now descend to that level of getting physical, getting abusive, it gives a very poor notion of poor image of the person involved. But I mean, I'm just saying, based on what I saw, I wasn't even in Abuja on that day, but those things that we all Nigerians saw, it was quite clear, and it displayed a character trait that is most unfortunate.
Have you considered the psychological fracture being isolated for that long would have caused him? The emasculation and the uncertainty of his case could be one of the reasons that, has psychologically and emotionally affected him, and that it's humane that his reaction was like that doesn't necessarily mean that he's commanding his lawyers and telling them what to do. We're just trying to look at all angles to this whole situation with Nnamdi Kanu's reaction the last time he appeared in court.
Well, certainly being in custody for that length of time will affect somebody's sight and all that stuff. Then if somebody like Mandela was there for 27 years and still came out looking calm, always calm in speech, so there's no need for, even if you keep a real leader for 5-10 years behind bars, to still comport himself in public. In fact, it will, those days in such, it will even help to make him a greater man, like it did with Mr. Mandela. But if you're not a leader, then of course it can only make you descend more into infamy.
Barrister Richard, are we saying that there is no political resolution to this ongoing impasse between Nnamdi Kanu and the federal government? I mean, we've heard talks. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Benjamin Kalu, told us that there are ongoing talks and very soon Nnamdi Kanu will be released. Are we saying that particular motion or intention is no longer on board? They've put it under the carpet, or we're going to see theatrics play out, or it could be a political move, a political switch card ahead of 2027 to solicit votes from the Southeast.
Well, I mean, the reality is that the trial of Nnamdi Kanu is not judicial. There's something more about law in it. It's clearly a political situation, and it can be solved peacefully. But then it's saying that a rules for 2027 is unfortunate. I mean, I don't see such happening. But if it in the interest of the current regime of the Bola Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu? I think the answer is no. So they'll be back a long spell because I don't think Mr. Tinubu is showing any signs of interest in the matter.
His
So
disposition actually verifies
Yeah.
that he doesn't seem to want to, look into that. But there's a hope that that conversation will come up and there will be attention given to that. Now, let's move on to Rivers State. We're still in the court process. I'm so sorry. I'm taking your time with all of this. You'll think I'm interrogating you when you're not the party involved. Barrister Esther Eliche, I need you to help us give us a basic premise. They say law should not be ambiguous. The law should not be ambiguous, should not be confusing, should not be intimidating. It should be well explained and comprehensible. Now, the Supreme Court has accused Fubara of pulling down Rivers Assembly after sensing impeachment, and they listed other sins. There's no time for us to start listing all the sins. But one of the things the Supreme Court is saying is that even if Fubara was afraid of impeachment, he had no right to go and pull down the State House of Assembly. That's one. Two, the court also vehemently told us that the courts or any institution has no right at all, has no right to impeach. It is only the State House of Assembly that has a right to do so. So what happened here? Where did Fubara miss it? Or where did the supposed defected lawmakers, whom the court is telling us now did not defect, where did they miss it? Where did it get wrong?
Well, the reality is that even in the governor's broadcast, the governor Fubara's broadcast, he mentioned that they have not seen the certified copy of the Supreme Court judgment and that they're expecting to have it by the 7th of March. So most of the comments being made now on Supreme Court judgments are just hearsay and not actually on real terms. I cannot envisage the Supreme Court accusing any party of pulling down the House of Assembly because it's not in its position. It's not a judicial panel of inquiry that has looked into that matter. So what we are saying now is mostly either hearsay or whatever. So I think the best thing is to await the Supreme Court, the certified true copy of the Supreme Court judgment. Then one will be able to make informed opinions, to express informed opinions on that judgment. But the reality that is still on ground is this. On the campaign from the party which elected them, which is the PDP, to the APC, those 27 legislators, by virtue of Section 109, Subsection 1G of the Nigerian Constitution, they lost their seat in the State House of Assembly. Simple. So that is where the pronouncement is sprinkled. And the character, the budget should be read to them and all that stuff. It's mind-boggling. And some of us are of the opinion that was a terrible judgment or a terrible ruling by the Supreme Court. Because you are saying that the budget should not be presented to just members of the public. If these 27 men left the house on that day, they announced their decampment because it was all in the public domain. Nigerians saw them, they had a press conference, they announced their decampment, and they were not traveling to meet their master. They were all flying the APC flags. So if they did all that, and the Speaker says that the budget should be read to them, then something is definitely wrong somewhere. And we already begin to see the repercussions of that judgment of the Supreme Court. Now they are shooting some parts of Rivers State. They are killing. There was some killings in Elele.
Yes,
there is so much disquiet across the state based on what I consider an ultra-violent judgment of the Supreme Court. And it's really unfortunate that rather than give out judgments that symbolize justice, that symbolize upholding the rule of law, our Supreme Court is now more associated with the reverse, with judgments that make you shudder, judgments that people will make fastidious to them to wonder, is this the law that they are reading or will go to practice in future? Because the Constitution should be sacrosanct. Because it can only help us to understand more of the Constitution, but not to speak against the Constitution. I hope that by the time we look at the certified copy of the Supreme Court really out in the next 2-3 years, we study the opinion to understand what was working in the mind of these justices of the Supreme Court when they decided that the budget of a state should be read to men who left the House of Assembly quite some time ago.
All right, Barry says, Richard, thank you so much. We've actually run out of time, but I sincerely do appreciate you giving us your insight and perspective into some of the questions posed at you. And apologies if it seemed like I was interrogating you. I wasn't. I just wanted to have a proper concept of, the stories read out on the World News at 6.
No problem. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ezeluche. And now to wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. Senate suspends Senator Natasha for 6 months. Natasha rejects Senate suspension. Senate Deputy Chief Whip alleges Natasha threatened to disgrace Akpabio. Also, Nnamdi Kanu files suit 6 fair trial release or transfer to Southeast. NAFDAC reopens Onitsha market, confiscates over 50 trailers of fake drugs. That's a wrap of the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. To kindly join us for the evening rush at 7 p.m. Good evening and thank you for listening.